will be live on the Buddy Martin Show. But excited about tonight's show, jam-packed with a great guest, and also introducing somebody that you're going to love if you haven't seen her before. Allie Peak Wilbur will join the program. She's got her own podcast, and which we'll be leading off. And we got many other things to talk about tonight. A little bit of Masters thrown in there, and lots of Gator football, what have you. Stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show is about to come on the air. Tell your friends and neighbors.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening, folks, to the Wednesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. We're heard 4 times weekly right here on this channel, and sometimes other places and times, but tonight's show is going to be a really good one. If you want to talk about Gator sports and football and recruiting and Billy Napier or what have you, we're going to bring aboard in just a second Allie Peak. Her name is Peak, not the Peaks that I used to know, but we'll talk about Wilbur. That name might be familiar to many of you Gator fans if you followed football in recent years and the Urban Meyer regime and knowing about punting. We'll just give you that little hint, all right? So here we go. We're going to lead off with Allie. First, this message from our sponsor, one of them, Titan MRI.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff Cardoza, and don't forget Titan MRI. Also on the program tonight, coming up, David Moulton, one of the favorites of our Buddy Martin Show crowd here. He'll talk about a lot of things, including the Masters, and we've got an old friend or two from Augusta days joining the program later on, so stay tuned. Right now, it's my great pleasure to bring to you the first time someone I've been wanting on this show for a long time. She is a busy person. Let's just say she's got her hands full on every front, but she managed to dish every week and do good stuff on recruiting, on football, on her podcast, which if you're not following, you should be following it. I'm going to get it right, make sure I get the name right. It's called Peek Inside. Let me get this thing up here right now. Peek Inside, I got the logo up so I can read it. Peek Inside Gator Football with Allie Peak. So, looking forward to that. Stand by. She's in the orange and blue room. Let's say hello to Allie Peak Wilbur. Well, good evening.
Hey, buddy. How are ya?
I'm great. And good to have you on this night, on a Wednesday night. I got a little break before without basketball for a change. Got all my stuff in today with watched my Rays play and did my interviews, and now we get to talk to you, and I can't wait to find out more about I know what you're doing. I've been following you for a while. I've been trying to get you on the show, and I want you to tell folks, among other things, you are a mom times 4. Amazing. You're a podcaster. You do a show on YouTube and probably other things, Instagram probably too, and you keep a guy named Eric Wilbur straight at the same time. All of that in the Tampa area. Good evening to you, Allie, and tell us about your life.
All right. Well, I am married to Eric Wilbur. Keeping him in line is my hardest job out of all of the hats that I wear. we have two sets of twins, 8-year-olds and 3-year-olds, all girls. And in all my free time, I decided I would start doing some shows on YouTube. So a peek inside Gator football was born. It's something that I have done off and on, honestly, since high school. So for a very long time, but I've kind of been out of the game raising some babies, but it felt like the right time to, stick my toe back in the water. Never really left watching and being in love with Gator athletics, but just kind of took a little break from actually publicly talking about it. But here we are.
And I first ran into you when you were working with a friend of mine, and I never got his name right all the years he was on my show. Dave Pingalador. I've called him everything over Pingalore or whatever. Just I called him Ping finally at Channel 6 in Orlando, and he mentioned you several times on the show, and we had him on almost every week on the Buddy Martin show and Voice of a College show. And I heard about you then, and I lost track of you. And now I know what you were doing. You're having babies.
Yes, I was. I had a great time working with Ping, Local 6. We did a pregame and postgame show from all the Florida games, and that was a pretty fun area of my life. And at that time, I was also doing radio in Orlando. The lead in to actually Mike Bianchi, which I'm sure is another name that you're familiar with.
Heard of that guy, yeah.
Time or two. But yeah, I did. I fell off the face of the earth a little bit to raise some babies. But
good for you. No, the most noble thing you can do is be a mother. That is for sure. And I'm sure you're a great mom. I can't wait to hear about your podcast. I've listened to a lot of them. Let's talk about the last one. Okay, the last one you had a lot of news in it. You know your football, no question about that. And you talked about Napier's recruiting, and they nabbed a 4-star, not for this year, not maybe for next year, but they got a guy that looks like, as you talked about in your podcast, he brings a lot to the table. Academics, he's going to play baseball. He's from the Muck Land down in Pahokee. And tell us about what you learned about Austin Simmons.
Well, so Austin Simmons is currently right now the class of 2025, but he has so many high school credits that he could actually reclassify, not for 2024, but he could actually reclassify for 2023 and be on campus for the start of fall, which would be crazy. He's a little bit older for his grade, so he's 17, so it wouldn't be sending, a 16-year-old or 15-year-old to campus. He's incredibly bright. He has over a 5.0 GPA, like you mentioned. Multi-sport athlete. He also plays baseball. He has scholarship offer from UF for baseball as well. Seems to be a great leader, incredibly gifted academically, obviously athletic. So this is kind of hitting it out of the park for Napier. This is now with DJ Lagway already on deck. This is 2 elite quarterbacks in a row. That's a pattern. That's what Napier is going to need if he's going to be able to be successful at UF. But it's interesting to think they may actually flip-flop and who gets on campus first. But I know that the staff really likes him, and for good reason.
For sure. And there seems to be a trend here with players that they're signing. The 2-sport players they've got now, and obviously, and I'm sure that the baseball program does not regret or resent it. And they can start to use the talent. We'll see where, of course, as we know, Allie, you know this because you followed recruiting a long time. This is just the first go in this volatile environment where guys can leave at a moment's notice, transfer can be flipped, etc. It's like landing a big fish on the line. They got to get him in the boat yet.
Yeah, you got to get him on campus. I mean, we saw what happened with Rashada, right? Last recruiting class. So having them committed to you doesn't necessarily mean anything just yet. They do have to keep him on the line. They've got to reel him in. They've got to get him to campus. And I do think there is a pattern with these multi-sport athletes. And I think that that's important for multiple reasons. Obviously, you're getting someone that's incredibly athletic if they can play at a high level in 2 different sports. But it also means that they're really good at time management. It means that they're really smart, good at learning, multiple schemes, multiple sports. So I think it kind of says a lot about the athlete as a whole that they are capable of playing at such a high level, in more than one sport. And Florida's baseball is phenomenal, right? So that doesn't, I think those programs can kind of work hand in hand in recruiting. And there's a lot of guys on deck that Florida's recruiting that either want to run track at Florida too, or play baseball. It's not just the quarterbacks that he's recruiting that are multi-sport athletes. There's a lot of guys on deck that play more than one.
Want to hear about your thoughts about Napier's program, the progress of it, and the other things. But you got a lot of fans popping up here. Terrence Simmons is one of our regulars. He's been gone for a while. He's back tonight. He wants to say, I love Allie's videos. They're a daily must-have. So there's one already. TJ Pittner, you obviously know TJ, apparently, because he's got your YouTube. And thank you for that, TJ. There's the information you need there. And this person here, you don't know, but she says, I love a smart woman in sports. Rebecca Martin Dubeck from Wyoming, Pennsylvania, my daughter, who was a sports writer for about 3 or 4 years in Colorado. So she's glad to see. So welcome to the family. Good to have you. So and so now Michael Burton, here he is. The screen suddenly looks wonderful. Okay, be careful. They don't go over the line, Michael. I know he's a good guy. So about that. Now let's talk for a minute while these people welcome you in. Let's talk for a minute about you, and then we'll get to the Napier and other stuff in football. Talk about you and talk about your children. I want you to know their names. I want you to know what kind of ring does Eric have through his nose, when you lead him around. How you keep him in order, and catch us up on Eric. Give us your family stuff.
Okay, well, Hadley and Hayden are my 8-year-old twins. Emerson and Alexandra are my 3-year-old twins. We've got second graders and then preschool aged. Eric, Peter Pan had to grow up at one point. He bounced around the NFL for a couple of years. We played in Canada, did some time up there, which was a really cool experience. Mm-hmm. And now Eric is a financial advisor. Peter Pan grew up. He has a real job. We're here in Tampa, and get back up to Gainesville as often as we possibly can. And life is good.
Leaving out the fact that your two oldest are baseball players.
You know what?
I've been watching. I've been researching you.
They play baseball, they play soccer, and they are competitive gymnasts. So our schedule is busy all the time, but we wouldn't have it any other way. And they're just having fun. And
were you an athlete?
I was a high school cheerleader. Did a bunch of sports leading up to high school, but
Where?
competitive cheerleader. Tampa Catholic.
Tampa Catholic. Okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah, and my gosh, you're a busy lady. That's good. Well, I saw the video of your girls today playing baseball. Thought it was cool. And good luck to Eric. I'm sure he'll do well. He was a heck of a punter, I'll say that. And he had a relationship with Urban Meyer was quite good. It took others a while to catch on to Urban, and he right off the bat recognized the guy was special, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I remember Eric had somewhat of a tumultuous maybe relationship with Ron Zook. I mean, he loved him and hated him, if that makes sense. But I remember when the players found out that Zook was getting fired, and it actually came across the ESPN ticker. I was with Eric at Chris Hetland's house, who was our kicker at the time. And as it came across the ticker, their phone started getting text messages from the team saying team meeting. So the team hadn't gotten to officially tell them at the time it's coming across ESPN's ticker. So, they went to the team meeting. They were told that Zook had been let go. And Eric was upset. He might have had, kind of his ups and downs with him, but it was his coach, right? And
right, sure.
He was not going to like the next person that came in, just on principle. That was kind of his attitude. And I remember the very first meeting that Meyer had, he locked the doors at exactly the time the meeting was going to start. So if you were late, you were not in that meeting. And the first thing that he said to them was, I know that you didn't choose me, but I need you to know that I chose you. And when Eric came home, he was already sold. I mean, that 45 minutes, that was it. He was 100% in on Urban Meyer. He was going to give him the best that he had, and continued. He feels that way to this day, right? And so it always stood out to me. I feel like that could have just happened yesterday. How vivid that memory is, because Meyer, in just a 45-minute meeting, was able to get so many of them on board.
I don't know what it was, and I get in trouble all the time defending Urban. I did a book with him. I've known him for a while. I have had great conversations with him. We did a podcast 3 years ago. Not that makes anything special, but people think they know things about Urban that I know for a fact are wrong.
Right.
Like I know for a fact what his situation was when he went to Ohio State before he went. because not to brag, I had the conversation with him, and I brought it up to him at the time. And at that time, he wasn't interested. He was at ESPN at the time. He'd already left Florida. So a lot of things, Urban, I guess some people just don't like him for whatever. Look, they don't like him because he's not Steve Spurrier, among other things. But certainly his football credentials and what he did at Florida, I mean, they're worthy of, Hall of Fame stuff and all that kind of thing. So we have differences of opinion. I've stopped trying to defend Urban to people. You don't like him, that's your problem. Whatever. Okay, let's do this. Roddy Kugel. When I saw that guy play the third game, I said to myself, and now I'm not a genius. Every now and then I'm blind. A blind pig finds an acorn, the cliche. And I saw him play. Oh, this guy's special. He turned out to be even more special than I thought. And now he broke out the last 10 games. He was special. He was the heart and the soul of the team. We thought he might be leaving, and now the news is just yesterday he's coming back to the program, and you commented on that, I think, on your podcast. Your thoughts about what that does for Todd Golden?
I mean, I think this is huge for Todd Golden, right? He saw a lot of talent hit the transfer portal, and this was somebody that he needed to stick around. Riley did consider the NBA momentarily, and like you said, it was just announced that he's coming back. He averaged, I want to say, close to 20 points the last few games of the season. He was SEC Freshman of the Week. I mean, he really kind of came into his own as soon as he got his feet underneath him, so to speak. And this is huge. This sets Todd Golden up for next season. It is a building block. It is a step towards continuity and towards, building off of this season, which I think a lot of people were disappointed in.
Yeah, for sure. Well, already we have people commenting on Urban. All you got to do is bring him up, Urban Meyer, and there you go. We won't get into all that. Let's get back to the basic, the recruiting. We have some smart people on here at night. Dan Bond's one of them. He writes for us sometimes on gymnastics. He's a very good gymnastics writer. And by the way, what a story Trinity Thomas is, whether she can come back or not, whether she's hurt or not, that's going to be interesting. But he's talking about, he said he read today, Dan did, about the football recruiting budget for the SEC, and that Florida was 5th in terms of money. Now, that's a little bit misleading because how about those hundreds of staff members he's got? I mean, that's not counting the recruiting budget. So, but what are your thoughts about that? Do you think they spend enough? You follow recruiting pretty closely. What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses?
So I think that UF's budget has increased since Napier has gotten here. Yes. He's gotten pretty much, as far as we know, all the things that he's asked for. Mm-hmm. And so I think he's probably happy with what the budget is, because otherwise he'd just be asking for more money. I'm kind of surprised to hear 5th, but I also think you got to take into consideration a lot of the players Florida goes after are here in the state of Florida or very, very close to the state of Florida, right? And so that means that the plane trips are going to be less. He's going to take a car to drive down to Tampa instead of a helicopter. Things like that do affect the budget, so it may make it slightly misleading in that way. But I think that Napier, I mean, we call it Napier's Army, right? We talk about this kind of mass of humanity that he has hired there to do all of the things. And when you look at what recruits put out, the number of letters that they get, when you look at the pictures from the recruiting events, everything is top notch. It doesn't seem like any stone is left unturned. I appreciate that. I think Napier is recruiting for his needs as opposed to recruiting to like win a recruiting national title. And we know that there are some coaches that do that, and that doesn't do anything for you at the end of the day. If your pieces don't fit, it doesn't matter that you have the best pieces.
Good point.
And I think that Napier has taken a real deliberate method in picking who it is that he's offering and who he wants. I do think he's throwing a lot of lines in the water. I think with NIL, the recruiting landscape has changed. There is some benefit to coming in second place with some of these players. I talked about this on my show a couple of days ago. In the past, if your hat wasn't picked, it didn't really matter that your hat was on the table. But now that players are jumping ship between programs so quickly, it kind of does matter that your hat was on the table, because if that relationship was built and they know who they can go to if they aren't happy at the program they chose, you're going to be one of those first calls because you have cultivated that relationship. And that really is different than it's ever been prior to the transfer portal being the way that it is. And I think Napier understands that. Now, don't get me wrong, Florida needs to be the hat chosen on the table as much as humanly possible. But it is interesting to watch them go after guys that, let's say are an Alabama lock or a Georgia lock, and we probably don't have the best chance at this time around. But they make those relationships so that if they're not happy, we can get a second go at them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to switch on you for a second. I know you're a sports fan, and I know that this has to impact your feelings about things. The phenomenal interest in the women's Final Four.
Yeah.
The numbers were incredible. I think may have outdrawn them. I don't know if they outdrew it. I know a lot of the games, like NBA games, they outdrew them. Their numbers were phenomenal. And the incident that happened, of course, as bad as it may seem, it was also great for social media with Angel Reese, what she did with Caitlin Clark at the end of the game, and all the things people, and this won't die out. And a wonderful job that Kim Mulkey did, and she's in hot water with some people. I like Kim Mulkey. I think she's awesome. But anyway, your take on the whole thing about the sudden emergence of women's basketball and the NIL deals are popping up everywhere for gymnastics, women, and women's sports.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest NIL deals that have happened so far are the twins that are down at the University of Miami. They actually got Miami in a little bit of hot water with some of their deals. But it's really interesting how NIL has helped women's sports kind of emerge a little bit. We do see it with gymnastics. We see it with women's basketball. We've seen it with softball. But every time I watched this stuff on social media, Caitlin Clark and Angel, and would we do this to men? And I don't know that we would. And if we don't care if men showboat or celebrate or talk trash, I don't think we should care if women do. And truly, Clark shut it down herself when she said that she had no issue with it, that Angel is a competitor. She didn't take any offense to it. There was nothing she needed to apologize for. That should have been the end of it. But no publicity is bad publicity. So people are looking up women's basketball. They are looking for clips of what happened. They are reading reaction articles. They're looking to see what other athletes are saying on Twitter. So it's all been positive for the sport, even though I don't actually agree with what everybody was up in arms with. And Caitlin Clark talked trash throughout the tournament as well, which I think that's okay. When you're a top competitor, you're going to get, out of sorts a little bit. I don't have any issue with what either one of them did, but I do kind of like that it's been a social media, to do, because it does shine a spotlight on women's sports.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is the women's sports are emerging to a new day, new era, maybe with more monetization and more endorsement deals? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the money brings attention. I also think the men's tournament being maybe less interesting than years past. And I guess you could argue that it's more interesting because there were lots of teams that we don't expect to be there lasting longer than normal. But when your big names go out early, that does hurt viewership. And I think that there was just really great women storylines to follow, and NIL may bring out some of those storylines because you know better than I do. These storylines always have existed. There's just not somebody writing about it or somebody talking about it on social media or TV. They've been there all along, but NIL is helping kind of bring them to the forefront a little bit.
Final thing for you this time, and we'll have you back if you'll come. Look, someone said today, what's it like to have Superman play quarterback? You don't need Superman, but yet they also say they had Superman here and he didn't do very well. I mean, look, we all know the gifts that Anthony Richardson brought. I loved him from the day I saw him the first time. I just was hoping he'd come back for one more year, but he can't. Of course, he's going to be a filthy rich guy in a matter of weeks here now. And I'll always regret that he came through here, but we never got to see, I don't think, the best of Anthony Richardson. Sure. But I feel it's an honor for me to watch him play and cover him. Your thoughts on Anthony Richardson and where you think he might go in the draft?
I am It's also sad that we didn't get to see him reach his full potential here. I think we are going to get to see him reach his full potential in the NFL. And so, I'm excited kind of for that ride. He came in at an interesting time, right? A crossroads between Dan Mullen and Napier. He, supposedly battled some injuries under Mullen. We don't know exactly kind of what went on there. And then he's moving into an entirely new system with Napier. A lot of players that were new to the program as well at that time. So it was just kind of a period of transition, and he is young. Vernell Brown left UF this week. Go manage Anthony. I know that they had a relationship from, their whole life here in Gainesville. Vernell Brown is Gator football to me. He is one of the most amazing people that I know. And so I'm sad for the Gators, but I'm so excited for Richardson to have somebody like VB, helping him and leading him, because there's no better person, to do that. But, I'm interested to see where Richardson goes. It's crazy to think what Florida's season was, that we're talking about a top 10 draft pick, potentially top 5 draft. I know that the Panthers were really hot on him for a while. I don't know if that will be his landing spot. One overall would have just been, wild.
Right.
But hope wherever he ends up, he is given enough time to fully acclimate to the speed of the game. He doesn't have that much game experience. He needs time to get his legs underneath him. I think the NFL is moving away a little bit from you have to play immediately if you're taken in the top half of the first round. And that's good for Richardson, because he is going to need that time to develop. But I am excited to watch him, and obviously wish him the absolute best.
Good stuff from Allie Peak Wilbur. Here's her logo right here. Peek inside Gator football. Tell them again what the address is on YouTube.
Well, that is a great question.
Just go to YouTube and put in Allie Peak Wilbur. Yeah. You'll find her. She's everywhere. She's on a lot. I really enjoy your stuff. I really enjoyed having you on. Hope you'll come back soon.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
All right, Allie Peak Wilbur. Great stuff from her. Stand by. We got David Moulton coming up next right here on the Buddy Martin Show after this message.
When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
All right, thanks very much. This portion of this program is brought to you by Titan MRI. We played their spot earlier. And David Moulton is back in his familiar spot on Wednesday nights. Great to have you. Great to see you, David. How you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And glad to catch up with you, because this is a good week to be talking to you, because you follow golf closely. You know golf. We're not going to make it all Masters talk, but how can you not talk about it? I don't know what you saw and heard today, but good stuff happening. Boy, Augusta looks good. And it looks like there's a little bit of healing going on, David. I think from what people are talking about among the LIV people and the PGA Tour people. What do you think in the Masters?
Well, I think there's two realities. First off, the whole big court case doesn't happen until early next year. So there's really nothing new that's going to happen this year involving the PGA Tour. Now, something apparently is going down in the next 24 hours involving the DP World Tour, that the LIV golfers lost their case to try to be able to continue to play on what used to be called the European Tour. So that'll affect Sergio and, about 15 other guys. But nothing's going to happen with the LIV PGA Tour thing in 2023. And the PGA Tour is reconfigured, and the best players are now going to make a lot more money. And even Rory came out 3 weeks ago, buddy, and said, we have LIV to thank for that. So in a way, those at the Champions Dinner, they can kind of thank a few of them, go, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be making the money we're going to be making in the next few years. So I think everybody's just going to behave who's not named Greg Norman. Now, if an LIV golfer wins a major, then you might hear some of the LIV guys do some talking. But I think right now everybody's just gone to their respective corners and they're going to do their thing.
Yeah, well said. I was interested in Fred Ridley, the chairman's comments today. I don't know if you heard him or not. He, of course, is a former Gator, as you might know. He kind of alluded to it, but he also said that he couldn't project the future. He didn't know what next year would be like. And I think one of the really key questions will be, he was asked, will he change the way players qualify worldwide for the Masters? And he had the numbers and ticked them off. And then he said, we will stick with the top, the ratings for the top 50 players and the rankings. So they are. But it occurred to me that if that's true, if they stick with them and nothing changes on the LIV, some of those guys now who are coming over here to play the majors could get knocked out. They wouldn't necessarily qualify for the Masters if they weren't in the top 50 because they don't play enough tournaments in the PGA Tour to get it. So it could happen.
I think half the guys who are in this field from the LIV, and there's 18 of them, I think 8 or 9 of them would not be in.
Right.
Okay, if the same rules apply for next year.
Yeah.
There's the only way they will qualify for next year's Masters is if they win a major. Either a former Masters champion or you've won a major within the last 5 years.
Right.
Because I don't know if any a year from now, I don't know if a single LIV golfer will be ranked in the top 50 in the world golf rankings a year by the end of this year, which is when the Masters sets their deadline.
Yeah. Did you watch the par 3?
No, I don't. I mean, it's cute. It's fun. I get it. I've seen it. I was lucky enough to work a Masters and to be at a couple. And so, no, it has its place. I spent time with my granddaughter.
Yeah, well, I understand that. And I've been going a lot of years. I saw it when it was actually semi-competitive, when those guys all played. And, of course, you wouldn't think of having your family or your child or your wife out there in that sacred ground of even the par 3 in those days. I can see a lot of good in it. Certainly, I'd like to have had the franchise on the caddy outfits for the children. It seems like it's become a thing now where everybody's got to have one. Somebody had one years ago, and now every child, which is fine. And it's great for them. Let them have their fun. Let them do it. That's okay. Because we got enough golf. But as a sports fan, I don't really care for it that much. But that's just, what if it was me?
And I think, quite frankly, for as uptight as Augusta is, I like the fact that there's 2-3 hours where people can let their hair down. So I think it has its place. I'm glad it's actually gotten less serious and more family oriented, quite frankly, because the next 4 days will be pretty serious.
It'll be that, and be some serious weather too. By the way, man, it's going to get cold, and you start making picks. You think about guys like Bruce Koepka, who looks pretty good swinging the golf club right now. Apparently, his left leg is better. But think about what happens on Friday with the rain and cold and walking those hills. If you've never walked them, I know you have, and I've walked them many times, it's a very difficult course to walk just for the media, let alone the players, and that could take him out.
The obvious player, though, is Tiger.
Well, Tiger's not going to have Tiger's got no chance of winning. I mean, he just doesn't.
Well, I understand that, but, Tiger hasn't finished in the top 20 in a major since he won the Masters 4 years ago. So, and Tiger's played 9 majors since he won the Masters, and he's only finished 4 of them. So, and as he said this week, he doesn't know how many Masters he's got left.
Yeah.
So I think people want to see him play 4 rounds.
Well,
and
sure.
He has acknowledged that, cold weather, his body does not respond well to it. Now, it'll be very warm tomorrow, all right? And then it's going to get colder Friday and Saturday. I guess the high Saturday will be like 52. Yeah. And it's supposed to rain a good chunk of Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be miserable.
Yeah. All right. Since I'm not allowed to talk Gator football with you anymore.
Not true.
Well, you told me there was no news worth it until somebody got hurt.
It's not. Well, I mean, that's for me, but you can bring up Gator football. I mean, we can talk about it.
It's a two-way conversation. I have to have
I follow it every way. I read all the stuff. I do. This linebacker coach wanting to rebuild the unit, and this line coach with 4 new starters. I'm trying to keep up on it.
Of course you are, because you do a talk show in the state. You naturally have to have something about it. And I know you do. You're a very erudite student of the game, and you know the SEC. You work in it, but you've now declared that you're not going to talk about the hype at Florida. So is signing a 4-star quarterback hype, or is that something to talk about?
Yeah, if he ends up in the quarterback room this year.
Okay. He won't be this year. It's for 20. Yeah. He's a sophomore.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
From Pahokee, left-hander, also plays baseball.
Listen,
grade point average 5.6.
Listen, to me, when any of the big 3 can keep 4 and 5 stars in this state home, it's newsworthy because and Bud Elliott has done a great job at 24/7 Sports, over the last half dozen years of showing that, quite frankly, the big 3 in this state have not kept their 4 and 5 stars home. I mean, it's one thing to have all the schools come in and start grabbing 3 stars and some 4 stars. But quite frankly, the Alabamas and Ohio States and Clemsons and Georgias of the world have been pulling the elite 4 and 5-star players away from Florida State, and Miami. And that's a real problem. So the fact that the Gators kept the kid from Pahokee home, that's significant.
Okay. I know that you'll agree this is that Roddy Koo coming back to play basketball in Florida is very significant for Todd Golden.
Yeah, I mean, right now the roster does not look good, but it could change in 24 hours with the transfer portal. But he arguably lost his 2 best players, and so it's good that once again, listen, this guy came in highly thought of within the industry. Obviously, this year did not go as well as he would have hoped, but he wasn't really playing with his guys. Yeah. So this is the first offseason that he gets to kind of put his roster together. Okay, when it's done, let's see what he's got. It needs to be better than last year, obviously.
Well, better is a relative term, but let's just say this, that his scheme is going to make a difference, hopefully. We're hearing good things. I know you don't like to talk about hype, but the defense may be getting better. I like the coaching changes. I think Corey Raymond being in charge of the whole back end is good. I don't know Austin Armstrong. What I hear about him and what I read sounds promising, and we'll see. I talked to Tony Barnhart this week, and he knows a little about SEC football, and we discussed the whole issue of, the pecking order in the SEC. We all know what it is. We know it's Georgia and everybody else, and then there's Alabama behind, and how long has Nick Saban got, and what's Jimbo going to do, and what have you. Are you ready to just go ahead and concede right now and give it to Georgia?
In the East?
No, just give them the whole deal.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No way. No way.
Okay.
Now, I will say their schedule is embarrassing. Honestly, they played nobody this year. I mean, I'm one of those that believes, quite frankly, if they lose a game, they shouldn't be in the playoff. That's how embarrassing their schedule is. For a 2-time defending national champion to play the non-conference schedule that they are playing is a joke. A joke.
Okay.
They should not be rewarded. Honestly. I mean, I hope there's a way. There's a part of me that wishes that they lose a regular season game, they don't make it to Atlanta, and people can pound the table and say, listen, they should not be rewarded for going 11-1, because quite frankly, all right, unless the bus didn't arrive on time, there was no record worse that they were going to have than 11-1.
Well, I mean, look, they had great players. They have 15 drafted. And Kirby Smart is a great coach. He really is. He's proven that.
Yeah, he is. But you know what? I'd love to see them play a schedule that it was in the area code of Florida's. I mean, Florida's going to Utah. Florida's non-conference games, Florida State out of the ACC. Georgia's is Georgia Tech. That's no comparison. One team's going to be preseason top 10. The other team will be lucky to be preseason top 50. I mean, crossover LSU versus Auburn. At this stage of where those programs are, I mean, Georgia's schedule is very very easy. It really is. To be in the SEC, it can't be easier than what they have.
Okay, so you don't think leading off with Tennessee Martin is a big game, and you don't think Ball State's a big game? They do have to face South Carolina. They got UAB, the fourth game. You don't think it's a good heavyweight schedule. And then they
Buddy,
got Auburn.
if I was a Georgia season ticket holder and those were non-conference basketball games, I'd be upset. Never mind the fact they're football.
November the 8th, aside from Florida, and I'm assuming you're conceding that to Georgia.
At Tennessee. No. I mean, listen, whether or not they go 12-0 is at Tennessee in the cocktail party.
Yeah.
In all likelihood. I mean, can South Carolina jump up? Maybe. They got a quarterback. It's possible. But I mean, Georgia's schedule is, think about those non-conference games that you just went through. Besides Georgia Tech, they got Tennessee Martin, they got UAB, and what's the other one? A MAC school? Was it
Ball State? Ball State.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, yeah.
Come on. I mean, honestly, come on.
But how do you knock them out if they don't lose any games?
Well, if they don't lose any games, obviously they'll be in it.
Yeah,
but
right.
My argument is if they lose one, I think a serious discussion should be had that they should not get in.
You can lead that charge. All right, so then how's Alabama and Nick Saban? What's David Saban, 71? Is he going to be 72 here? Shows no sign of slowing down. And he wants to coach for obviously for a long time. He lost both coordinators. Some people are saying, well, it's coming to an end for Nick Saban. Not so fast, my friend. What about Saban?
No. He's got top 5 talent in the country. No, it's not coming to an end. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, new coordinators, new quarterbacks. Sure, it'll be interesting. But, and they've got early season. By the way, a chance to see Alabama. They play at South Florida this year early.
Yeah.
I think it's week 3 after they play Texas.
Yeah.
So, for those who have never seen Alabama play before, you can see them in Tampa, 3rd week of the season. But, no, obviously, come on. I mean,
all right. So here, I'm just trying to get you,
just
kind of get you riled up. And so here's the deal. People are saying, well, Nick Saban will never make it back to the playoffs. He's done. He's finished. There's one little fly in that ointment. 2 years from now, the top 12 teams make it. All right. Number one.
Buddy, with all due respect, who the hell has said that? Honestly.
Oh, it's all over social media show. Yeah.
Oh,
you don't watch the guys from Pine Bomb all the time calling Georgia saying, hey, I want to be back in the playoffs. Anyway, so all right, so that's we agree. Okay, we agree. I'm not saying that. I'm telling you what the dialogue is out there, David. What's going on? So that's
idiotic. Then.
Yeah.
If that's the dialogue's idiotic.
Yeah. All right, so we got about 8 or 9 minutes left here. I'll give you your options to tell me what you talk about on your show, and maybe we'll squeeze in a little bit of baseball, although most people don't want to. How about my Rays being 6-0, baby?
How about your Rays? I was there opening day. I have to admit, I have a Rays-Braves World Series.
I'm for that.
And right now, those two teams are 11-1. So for a week, I'm looking really good.
And my friend Ben Troop would just go, we'd have to bet $1 million because he's a Braves fan on that deal. But no, so we'll get to the baseball on the clock and all that for a second. But all right, David does his show that's heard in 9 countries. He lives in Jacksonville. Does a show that's it's heard over in Lake City and actually it's stationed in Gainesville if we can ever find it. And, of course, down in Naples, Fort Myers, where he was iconic sports talk show host for many, many years. Taught Howard Cosell how to do talk. Anyway, David, what are you talking about on your show?
Well, we're talking about what everybody is talking about. We talk a lot of football year-round, but clearly baseball season, we have talked a little hoop and a little hockey, I will say, with a week left in the NBA and about a week and a half left in the NHL. So we're finally taking that seriously. But we talk football year-round. That's what people want to talk about.
Yeah.
Pro and college.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, David does a lot of gigs. You'll be back with CBS this year, I'm sure.
It's
doing
our
your
final
gig.
year with the
Final year, yeah.
It's our final year. Yep.
How many years have you done CBS SEC games?
This will be 18. So
Wow.
basically, I will graduate high school
Oh,
this year. This will
wow.
be 18 years. Started Tebow's freshman year, 06.
Mm.
That was
So,
my and Gary Danielson's first
yeah.
SEC on CBS year.
Yeah, so you had about 10 years with Vern, and you saw him eat 800 hot dogs during that time, didn't you?
That's right. Yep, 11 with Vern and now 7 with Brad Nessler.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, 7 Nessler. That's amazing. All right, so now and then, of course, you did the NFL for a while. I'm not sure if you did that last year or not, NFL games.
Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
Joe and Troy.
okay.
I followed them from Fox.
Okay. All right. So you got that going on. You did the PGA Tour stuff for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Golf.
Yep. Scheffler trying to become the 4th to repeat.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of people like his chances.
Do you?
A lot of people. I will say this, buddy. It's the best short game in big moments that I've seen since, Tiger's prime, but even, Phil's prime and Seve's prime. I mean, Scheffler's chipping and putting in big moments is remarkable. It really is. And if the course is going to play long and wet, you got to think long straight drivers have a big edge. So, and slower greens. So could this be a John Rahm week?
That's the guy I got. That's the guy I got. John Rahm. Watch out for him. He's ready.
I mean, he has only played well here once. Same with Koepka, by the way, who's only played well here once.
Who still got an injury.
But Scheffler and Rory are the guys that everybody's picking. But I wonder if maybe, just maybe, we go Rahm. I'm going to throw a couple of guys who have played well here.
All right, go ahead.
I'm not ready to go Cam Smith. I know he's played well here, but he has not played well so far this year on the LIV Tour.
Mm-hmm.
But Justin Rose plays very well at Augusta, has the 4th best scoring average all time, actually, at Augusta. And, Zalatoris, I know he got hurt.
One of my guys. I love Zalatoris.
Okay, but until he plays himself out of it, I would take a flyer on Zalatoris this week also.
Somebody asked me for a dark horse. I wish I'd have said this then. I'll say it now. Tommy Fleetwood. He is so ready to win. Fleetwood is. And then, of course, you can't get past Rory and Scheffler and Rahm and those guys. And I don't think Koepka can win here because he's really not 100% over that hip thing he's got. And it's going to be cold and rainy. We know Tiger has no real chance. There could be an off-the-wall pick, someone. I'm rooting for Louis Oosthuizen. Ask me why.
Because he lives in, Ocala?
Yeah, my local guy, right? He's an LFA player. Yeah,
Louis Oosthuizen.
Yeah.
Well, and that'll be interesting, bud. Of the 18, who would you put your $20 on to be the best finisher amongst the LIV guys?
Probably Koepka.
I would probably go DJ, but
DJ too. He's amazing. If he's rolling his rock, which he can do, he could shoot 30 under. I mean, if he's putting well, that's going to be the key for him.
A guy who's had a little magic here in the past, won it once, contended one other time recently. I don't discount Charles Schwartzel this week.
I keep saying that for the last 10 years. I keep waiting for something to happen, and it just hasn't happened with Schwartzel.
No, I know. He came close a few years ago. He contended late, but no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
If you had to pick one, though, David, who is it?
Well, believe it or not, I took a flyer on Justin Rose. I'm going off the beaten path. I think because of the rain, the course is going to play harder. Justin Rose plays hard courses really well. I think that this could, even have a little British Open feel to it. So I took a flyer on Justin Rose, and that's a big flyer.
I'm rooting for Rory to get his slam. I want that to happen. I love Scheffler, but I think the best player on his way back, if he's back to the early season form, is John Rahm. So that's who I'm going to go with, John Rahm.
There's no doubt. Rahm's A game so far in the last 8 months has been better than anybody else's A game.
Yeah.
I will admit, and I know I may get some grief from this, but I'm a sports talk show host. I root for the story. I'd love for an LIV guy to win this thing. All right. That would just add some real juice.
Just some guy
what has already been a really juicy golf season. I mean, the stars have played big in the big tournaments on the PGA Tour so far this year. All right. But if an LIVer could win either the Masters or the PGA early in the season, it would add some juice.
You're just a little troublemaker. You love to stir
I
it
said
up.
I root for the story. Come on. I got a long spring and summer ahead of me here. I'm rooting for some talk.
All right, David. It's always great to have you. See you. Thanks for your good stuff. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Masters. And we'll catch up to you next week when I cash in my big ticket on John Rahm. All right. If I send a plane down for you, just get on it, okay? Don't ask any questions.
I'm going to say, buddy, it's not big odds on Rahm, but you
a lot of money
anyway.
Right. You do a lot better with your guy than Justin Rose. Thanks, man. Great stuff.
Great
all right.
You look good, by the way.
Thank you very much. The great David Moulton. He always brings it. We love that about David, and he's back on his Wednesday night routine. Things are back in order. The universe is in its place. Good. All right, so then going to go right from here to my interview earlier with Jerry Walters. Jerry Walters is a friend of mine, Golf Hall of Famer in Colorado. He does a show out in Colorado. He was in Augusta today. We caught up with Jerry earlier, and this is what he told us he saw and felt and heard in Augusta. Great to hear from my friend Jerry. So let's see if we can roll that out of here for a second. Where are you, Jerry? I know you're here somewhere. Meanwhile, how are you folks doing out there tonight? Good to have you aboard, and thanks for listening and watching. Wasn't Allie great? We definitely want to have her back again for sure. So here's Jerry. My great pleasure now to welcome back an old friend to the show, a guy that we've done a lot of these kind of shows over the years. He's in Denver. He's a Hall of Famer. I'm just a humble servant, and he is on his way back from the Masters. So we've got a live segment here, live to tape, Jerry. It's Jerry Walters at the Masters, but really in the airport in Atlanta on his way home. How you doing, pal?
Well, buddy, I'm doing good. I'm always good. Some days a little bit better than others. And the last 2 days spending on hallowed grounds there at Augusta, Georgia, prior to the Masters. The only thing that would make that better would have been had you been with me.
Would have been great. I got a chance to do that for about 30 years. It was fun. Well, give me the fresh report. Give me that. How do the azaleas look and the dogwoods?
Yeah, everything looks great. And I hear that the greens are running somewhere north of 13 on the stimp meter. I followed Saeed Thigala and Max Homa around the back nine today. And, their game looks good, hitting the ball well and putting. But as you well know, it comes down to who can hit the ball high, because there's a lot of elevation changes there. I had forgotten how far you have to hit it up in the air on number 9 coming into the green. It comes down to who can hit the ball high, who can not get frustrated around the greens when you miss them, and who's got the best speed control putting.
And now who can negotiate number 13, which has changes this year.
Woo!
And all the players are talking about laying up on 13.
Yeah. Of course, spectators can't get back there, so I couldn't see from that perspective. But down in the fairway, looking back, what did they say? Did they push that back about 75 yards or so?
I'm not sure, but they certainly may have longer, and it's difficult because there you got to be able to get around the corner, and there's trees, and really already guys have said, even Tiger says, and of course Tiger can't hit it as far, is that they're going really. Tiger had a great comment. Instead of being so many 3s and 7s there are going to be a lot of 4s.
Okay. Okay.
And
maybe so. Yeah, because, distance to these guys, it changes their game just a little bit. Yeah. But when they're so good around the greens and on the greens, you don't really hold them back. Yeah, there won't be any 3s probably. Yeah. But you're not going to hold them back. There's going to be a lot of 4s and a lot of 5s.
A lot of talk about LIV. Didn't allow it to be talked about, really. I say didn't allow it, didn't bring it up. And The dinner, by the way, the Masters dinner, I'm just going to assume that you were not there. I have a photo of the dinner here. And the champions dinner.
I was busy, buddy.
Huh?
I was busy. I
couldn't
get there? I couldn't make it.
Yeah. I thought sure you might get in there and get in that dinner, but Scotty Scheffler had some big old burgers and stuff, and anyway, so with the champions dinner, for those who don't know, he gets to pick the menu, and Scheffler picked his favorite foods, and so it's always a feel good day. By the way, I'm putting up in front of my face right now a photo of everybody last night at the dinner, all the champions. What a great picture of the green jackets, and it's quite a thing. Jerry, you didn't get to see the par 3. We watched it on because you left. We watched it on TV. It's really a family deal now, where there's really no competition. You got the children all dressed in caddy outfits. The women are caddying, and they're all taking shots out there. And even and Justin even was pulling people out of the audience, and letting them hit shots for him. He said he went to a par 3 once when he was a kid, and he saw it happen. He said, "Well, I'd like to be that guy." So he pulls the guy out the kid out and lets him putt for him. So Jerry, tell me your takeaway now. It's something. I mean, we've talked about this over the years. It's such a special feeling to walk inside those grounds.
Man,
isn't it? Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's go back to the par 3 contest. I see that Tom Hoagie had a hole-in-one and won. I wrote to his caddy, an old friend, Henry Diana, and I just said, uh-oh, because as you well know, the jinx is, or the story is, if you win the par 3, you can't win the Masters. Now, I don't know if that means this year or ever.
Ever. That means ever.
Ever. Okay. Well, maybe he's out to break that jinx. That being said, there probably are 15 or 20 guys in the field that have a legitimate chance of winning. I kind of narrowed it down to that number. I mean, you look at guys like, and who knows, maybe Bernard Longer could jump up and win. I don't know. I saw him out there playing. He's still got some game. He can shoot his age on the senior tour, and he's won more tournaments than Hale Irwin. But he's probably not going to win. But if I were to pick somebody, I suppose I'd probably try to pick Rory, simply because he's done so much preparation in advance of this. Because as much as he reveres Arnold Palmer, he doesn't want to be in the same breath as Arnold Palmer as being the guy who never could complete the lifetime Grand Slam.
Yeah. This would be huge for him on that. Well, you got Rory Scheffler and John Rahm, 3 people there that are going to be hard to beat, I think. And you never know. Maybe one of those guys from LIV would bounce, in there. I don't think so. Koepka is looking better, but he's still got, I don't think his game is up to speed. I don't know if anybody, we forget Cam Smith won the last major, right? So there's some players who can still play, but getting away from that storyline of the LIV, because it was such a good feeling today among players. And Fred Ridley, he's a Gator, by the way, had some good things to say about it. And, of course, as the Masters has, they have it their own way, and they do it all with class, don't they?
They certainly do. And, just to touch on the LIV players, it would certainly be interesting for somebody who does a podcast about golf if a LIV player won, because, oh, my gosh, would it ever heat up all the conversation and so forth. I did see Cam Smith out there. Looked pretty good. He was playing with his countryman, Adam Scott, and the amateur, I forget what his name is, from Australia as well. The guys were out there. Phil was being greeted very well from the patrons when he was playing. He was with DJ and Harold Garner and I think Taylor Gooch. But, the LIV players want to make a statement. The guys who were playing there, they want to make a statement, but it would be so interesting if one of them won.
For sure. Well, if it's going to be one, let's make it Louis Oosthuizen, who lives in Ocala, Florida, okay?
Let's do that.
Let's make it him.
His caddy is an old friend of mine. He used to caddy for Retief Goosen.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see him win that because he was with Goosen for a long time.
Well, you know a lot of people. Jerry's a Hall of Famer, call it a Hall of Fame guy. He's been in golf a long time. He teaches putting. He does the Fairway broadcast and a terrific job. Now, no Jerry Walters segment would be worth its salt, so to speak, without a food comment. I've got a picture on the screen of you in a green hat in Augusta eating something. What is it?
Gosh, I don't know. That was an old picture because they didn't allow cell phones in there this year. I'll say, let's just go out on a limb without looking at it. It was either barbecue or a peach ice cream sandwich.
Well, that could be. I'm going with tomato cheese. Is what I'm thinking right now. Although I don't think you like tomato cheese, do you?
Yeah, I don't think I'd wrap my lips around that, buddy.
Barbecue is awfully good there. We were just having a conversation earlier, John Fenner, about our favorite fresh room food and of all the sandwiches, which I've had hundreds of over the years. The barbecue is always the best. A little heartburn, but hey, it comes with, right? So
you betcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you a question, buddy. If you've got just a second here. Friends write to me and they ask me, "Oh, who should I pick?" I mean, really, you can't pick against Rahm, Scheffler, or Rory. But then it comes down to they go, "Well, who's your dark horse pick?" Have you got a dark horse pick?
I do not have a dark horse pick, but I got a feeling you're pressuring me to give you one.
Buddy, have I ever pressured you?
Yeah, all the time. Every time I was ever there to show
I'll throw a name out there. Somebody who's been playing really, really well here recently and might get overlooked would be Keegan Bradley.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, he's been playing. I'd sure like to see that, but I'm going to take a flyer. I'm picking Rahm. I think he's going to kill him. But I'm going to give you. Here's a guy that everybody's discounting because of his physical disabilities. I think Koepka, if he's playing and putting well, could win this thing, and that would really upset the apple cart. So that's my dark horse. But Rahm's going to win.
Again, a live player, that would certainly be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Yes, it would be. But if it can't beat Louis Oosthuizen, who I want to win. So. Jerry, thanks so much, man. What a great.
You bet, buddy.
I know you
Always
enjoyed.
Great to talk to
great
you.
talking to you, and man, if you get a chance, folks, you want to hear a good podcast, In the Fairway with Jerry Walters. 25 years been doing this. Jerry telling people how they would get a hold of it and it's funny, it's good. And Jerry, by the way, is an excellent golf teacher, putter expert, whatever. Knows a lot of people on the tour. He took me to dinner one night, and his guest was Paul Azinger. That's how big Jerry is.
Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't he in the restroom writing on the mirror or something?
No, actually, he walked in there and saw somebody had been writing on the mirror, and I think he might have written something too. I don't know, but he could have been. It was a good dinner. It was a good time. He's a good guy.
You can find In the Fairway podcast on Apple and Spotify and Buzzsprout. And just to tease you a little bit, last week's episode, I had Damon Hack from Golf Channel, and I had Travis Perkins, who is the caddy for Sam Burns, who had just completed the match play. The week before that, I had one Paul Tesori from Florida, who had caddied for 13 years for Webb Simpson and had just changed bags and went to work for Cam Young, who ended up finishing second to Sam Burns in the match play. So that's the type of guest.
All right, good stuff from Jerry Walters. Thank you, Jerry. We're going to go over tonight just a minute. I'm going to tell you first about my tower, where you can grow the greens like this, and you can make good food out of it. I'm getting more information, and I'll be sharing with you the next couple of days how you can do this. Get your own tower, grow your own greens, and make stuff like this. This is my handiwork. I made this healthy meal from it right here, fresh off the tree, right into my plate, right into my other than healthy organic beef, and there it is, made from my tower. Want to know more about it? DM me. I'll tell you later on. I have an address for you to get in touch if you'd like to know more about having your own tower. Let's do this. I'm going to tell folks about Restore Medical Research. They've been around for a while. Their proven reputation is a high quality, patient-centered clinical research facility here in Ocala. They do cutting-edge clinical research trials for things like Alzheimer's and psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia. Check them out on winstart.net. You might want to be a part of it. They continue to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Renstar Medical Research seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. We'll close it off with a little word about my friend John Finneran. We talked today about our memories of the Masters. Welcome, my friend John Finneran, longtime associate in sports writing. We sat together at many Masters. John's got us a Masters green on today, and John's up in South Bend, Indiana, and former sports editor of the Charlotte Sun and Gator Country and all the things we did together. John, it's good to see you again. It's always good, buddy. Every year, but particularly during this week, the Masters, and I dare say that for us, it evokes passionate memories.
Yes, it does. I mean, I did 10 of them with you, and then the last one that I saw was 1995 when Ben Crenshaw's mentor, Harvey Penick, had died just before the Masters. And so Ben essentially shows up at Augusta, after the funeral and goes out and wins the Masters. And of course, with a great picture of him and Carl Jackson, his caddy, as Ben, after he putted out at 18 on Sunday, and Carl, his longtime caddy there, an Augusta caddy, calming Ben, who was in tears.
Yeah, crying for sure.
And Ben is, I've got a kinship with Ben because Ben did Warren Golf Course here at Notre Dame. He and Bill Core designed that, and Ben and I have the same birthday, January 11th, 1952.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
He got the putting stroke, and I got the riding stroke.
There you go. All right, John Finneran, looking back at the Masters, I can easily tell you what your favorite was. That would be 1986, which was mine. Just in real short form, the one short memory about Jack, and of course, Seve Ballesteros hit the ball in the water at 15, and all the press corps went nuts, and you in the press room went, gentlemen, please, little decorum, yahoo! And we laughed, had a good laugh, and what a moment, and what a year. I know you have many fond memories, but can't be many better than Nicklaus in 86.
No, there can't, and I remember the day before, on Saturday, Jack's putting on after the round. He's up on the green putting, trying to figure out, because he had that new putter that he was using, what we thought was a vacuum cleaner extension. It was huge, and he was just trying to get a feel for it still. And of course, everybody had ridden him off. They didn't think he was going to win. Yeah. And he had, then you look to see where he was, and do you think? And I remember asking him Saturday night before I went back in to write. I said, "Well, how you feel about tomorrow?" He says, "I'm okay. If I shoot 65, let's see what occurs." Well, gosh, he goes out and shoots 65.
Because almost had a hole in one at number 16. That was a dramatic moment there. So, in the remaining time we have, just a couple of minutes here, I want to make sure I get into this with you. And we were always big foodies. We liked to eat the food at Augusta. You and I had many dinners, or lunches, not dinners, downstairs in the Masters members restaurant that the media was allowed to go into. And I think you were the big peach cobbler guy, as I recall. You always loved that, yeah. And there's always something on the menu that you liked, just a special place to be. But now there's something, these new exotic foods I've heard about, read about, don't know what they're about. Olives. Big story about olives at Augusta.
And apparently they've been there for years. I mean, Clifford Roberts fell in love with this particular brand of olives, and he had them, and you can get them in a grocery store. Yeah. But he made sure that they had them at Augusta National, and then they started serving. They started having them at the Masters, the Champions Dinner, and the players went nuts over them. Yeah. So now they're a staple at the Champions Dinner. And the first time I had ever heard of these olives was this year. Somebody did a story.
Me too. I'm with you on that. Now we've had our fair share of the free food in the press room. The pimento cheese, the Masters Club, whatever you want to call it. My favorite was the barbecued beef. That was always the best. The rest, I'm not a big pimento cheese fan. You can buy those for like, under $1 back when we were there. Now they're a little bit more. Other kinds of sandwiches. But to me, John, the barbecue beef in the press room was really as good as it gets.
Yep. And, the first time I ever had a Krispy Kreme donut was at Augusta.
If you could get one, you can't get them. They're all gone for you. For sure, yeah.
And the prices for food at Augusta,
ridiculous,
on the golf course, okay, is
legendary, legendary,
low. I mean, I asked, my son went there a couple of years ago as a fan, and I said, well, how much did you spend for food? He said, I spent $12. I got a beer, couple sandwiches, and a bag of chips.
Right.
And oh my God, you go to a basketball game and the beer alone would be $12.
Exactly. Hey, we got about 30 seconds there. I want to get this in. Let's talk about what they're talking about at number 13. We haven't got time to talk about the golf ball. Fred Ridley addressed that, Gator Fred Ridley, today in his press conference. But we only got a couple of minutes, not even a couple of seconds, to finish up the conversation. And let's talk about, they're talking about number 13 being changed. They're all talking about laying up on number 13 to par 5. Even Phil Mickelson, who's a go-for-it guy. So that's one of the changes, John, right there, that they're going to be talking about a lot this week, number 13 at Augusta.
Yeah, because, again, going for 13 and going for 15 and 2, they made the change at 15 last year, I believe, and there weren't a lot of guys who were going for it in 2. Okay, they were laying up and then hitting their shots in. So we'll have to just see how much the changes is, but until they rein in the ball.
Another story. Story for another time. That could take us an hour to talk about that. By the way, Tiger Woods says he thinks there'll be a lot more this year 4s at number 13 than there were before, where there were either 3s or 7s. In other words, everybody's laying up apparently on 13, so we'll see how that plays out.
And it'll be less crystal given out.
Yeah. John, give me a winner real quick.
Well, the weather, give you a winner. Why don't we go with, I like Rory. I think Rory's finally going to break through.
Rory's the winner. I got him down for you, John. Thanks. It's great reliving the memories. Talking to you. All the best, my friend. Enjoy the Masters.
All right, my friend. You too.
Thank you.